You are Locked On Clippers Postcast, part of Locked On Los Angeles on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Postcast. I am Pete Fox. Thank you for watching us on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel and listening on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed, covering sports in LA since 2007 for ESPN Radio and NBC Sports Radio. Clippers pull one out, a gutty, dig it out of the dirt, as Brian Seaman says, kind of win. But these are the kind of wins, a pitcher's duel, if you will, that you have to feel really good about. 89-88, a low scoring affair to say the least. But a win is a win, and the Clippers come away from this one having to feel pretty good about themselves. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place just a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn.com. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. So this one came out with a lot of importance on it. Steve Ballmer, the owner, was there. That kind of a game for the Clippers, having dropped the first two to the Timberwolves, one in LA, one in Minnesota. The one in Minnesota was a 4-point game, 109-105, I believe. The one in LA was a complete shellacking. I think it was a 21-point or somewhere in that neighborhood defeat at the hands of the Timberwolves there at crypto.com. So round three gives the Clippers still an opportunity to win the season series, which will put, or not win it, at least split it, which will help them in playoff seedings. But it came out and the Clippers just did not look good in the beginning. It was ugly right out of the gate. And I'm thinking, oh, here we go again. But at the same time, I was somewhat encouraged by their defense. And I kind of had that feeling, well, you know, if they keep playing D, you have to think, I don't know that the Timberwolves can keep this up, right? This was a situation where I felt like someone is going to have to get hot, and there's no way the Timberwolves can keep that up. Karl Anthony Towns was 5 of 5 to start. I was right about him. He got red hot cold, if that's a thing. He got ice cold in the fourth. I believe he missed 10 consecutive shots. Who else missed 10 consecutive shots? Oh, that's right, James Harden. Thanks for nothing, James Harden. Man, if he'd have made a few shots, this game would have been out of control and out of sight early. But the Clippers just shot poorly all night, unless your name is Kawhi Leonard. It was a get on my back performance from Kawhi Leonard. Lean on me when you're not strong. That's what Kawhi did today. 32 points, 12 of 26, including the game winner, which was a lowly free throw. But hey, a point is a point, and it was the game winner for the Clippers. And without Kawhi Leonard, obviously, they don't have a chance in this game. But in the beginning, it was the Clippers were just getting punched in the mouth, both hands up against the ropes, right? 16-2 to start the game. Wolves were 6 of 7 to start. But as I said, I felt like the defense was fine. It's just that the Wolves were playing out of their head. They knew the importance of this one as well. And they were just not missing. Clippers hands in their face, and the T-Wolves were just burying them from everywhere on the floor. So I thought the Clippers were playing well, and they just kind of weathered the storm. And this was one of those situations where if you got up to go get a drink or turned your head for a few minutes, like just not paying attention, looking at your phone or whatever, and looked back up in the early part of the second quarter, you were like, wait, what? Because the Clippers went on a 16-0 run at the end of the first into the beginning of the second and grabbed the lead. So at the end of the first quarter, it was 30-18 Timberwolves. So that's not too bad, down 12. They were down as many as 16 on the day. So they went on that 16-0 run at the end of the first half, where they were trading buckets a lot in the second, which I'm okay with. You know, as long as you're matching, I don't necessarily feel like you have to get the stops and go on runs. There were a couple very nice runs for the Clippers. As I've mentioned of late, that it's troubling for the Clippers when they go on these runs and then turn right around and give up a similar run to the opponent. They did not do that today. The Timberwolves did go on some runs, but they weren't massive. They were like 8-0, 9-0, things in that neighborhood. So at the end of the first half, it was 49-46. But at the end of the first quarter, Paul George, 0. James Harden, 0. And Zubac, 0. Like, I don't know how you overcome that other than to keep shooting, but that's just bad. That's unfortunate. It's like somebody's got to score. And what's up with James Harden? He missed 10 shots. He had 4 points. They were all free throws. 0 for 6 from beyond the arc. He's definitely a streaky shooter, but I didn't think it would go the other way. I don't think I've ever seen him miss that many shots, and a lot of them were good looks. And it's not as if James Harden needs a good look to score. You know, he can do that step back thing that he does so efficiently and bury threes. There was one point in time where the shot clock was running out. I believe it was late in the third, early in the fourth, and he got trapped with the ball about 10 feet behind the 3-point line, chucked one up that looked so pretty, but it hit the back iron and came out. I was like, that's what he needs to get going. If he'd have made that shot, he probably would have made the next 4, but it didn't turn out to be that way. He was 0 for 10 on the night. So, or the day rather. But all in all, one of the things coming into the game, Ty Lue said, we need to make quicker decisions and not settle for bad looks. So, you know, make the passes, find the open man, take the shot. And it really did kind of feel like that's what was going for them, what was working for them, and why they were playing so confidently, even down. It didn't feel like they were all that out of it. In the first 2 meetings between these two teams, the Clippers have struggled shooting. Today, similarly, they struggled, but even worse, they only shot 37% today. Through this series, they've been 42% shooting from the floor, where the Timberwolves have been up by 55% shooting. So that's been bad, but again, it didn't really matter. I honestly mean, I do know how the Clippers won this game, but it is surprising to win a game against a very top defensive-minded team. The Timberwolves are the best defensive team in the league. And when they were shooting well in the first quarter, the Clippers turned on their defense, and that is exactly how they won this game, 89-88, because they could not make a shot unless you are Kawhi Leonard. Everybody was closing out so nicely, especially in the third quarter. Their defense was fantastic, and we'll get into the more specifics of that. Some of the stuff that we've talked about a lot here that has really eluded the Clippers of late was definitely on display today. So we'll take a break. Clippers win it in Minnesota at Target Center in a matinee, 89-88. Thank you for watching us here on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel and listening on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed. All right, today's show, as I mentioned, brought to you by FanDuel, where you can get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets. It's a great way to get the action started. All you have to do is win a $5 bet. That's 150 bonus bucks if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams, which is cool. You get quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and a whole lot more. All you got to do is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook and partner of the NBA. All right, Clippers squeak one out, digging it out of the dirt. A ugly, brutal, slow, low-scoring affair. But in the end, a win is a win, and it has to feel really good to be on top in this one, on the road, and gaining ground on the teams ahead of you when you really were just terrible shooting. I would say some of that, a good portion of that, has to do with the Timberwolves defense for sure. They deserve credit because their defense was as stellar as it usually is. But on the other hand, it was, it just happens. Those guys have off days. Paul George was not great. 5 of 16 in 34 minutes for 15 points. But in the fourth quarter, hit some very, very clutch baskets. He had a big three to give them the lead, 74-73 in the third. As far as shooting threes go, Daniel Tice has got to stop. Just because Russell Westbrook is not on the team right now because he's injured with a broken hand, and he's the guy that normally shoots bad threes and misses. we don't need to fill that role, right? We don't need someone to step up and be the guy who misses bad threes, right? All right, let me back up. We don't need the guy that misses open threes, because Daniel Tice was open on a few of them, and just one of them was an air ball. He was 0 for 4 from beyond the arc. And there were times when these buckets would have been huge for the Clippers, and it would have been that out of the seat moment, a shot that would have made the bucket list had he made them, but he missed all of them. At some point, you have to go, all right, tonight's not my night, or today's not my day. I'm going to pass on these. And then, fortunately, to his credit, late in the fourth quarter, he did. He was like at the point with the ball, double teamed, scrambling to find somebody to pass the ball to. So, that's what ultimately you want when you're clinging to a 1-point lead that's teetering back and forth. Fortunately, Karl-Anthony Towns was ice cold as well. He missed 10 in a row. And then that one point there was in the fourth quarter, a fantastic play where the Clippers defense knocked one away or got a wide open steal, and Norm Powell on a breakaway with nobody around him goes for a windmill dunk. And I was like, oh no, don't miss that. I've seen too many high schoolers miss that. And I guess that was running through my head, that windmill dunk where they don't quite get high enough, so it comes off the back iron. And to a certain extent, I think that's kind of what happened, even though he made the basket, because he left the game shortly thereafter, kind of clutching at his arm or something. So I have a feeling like it would have been better just to lay it up, or, a nice, calm, two-handed dunk or something like that. We don't need the windmill on the road where you hurt yourself, Norm Powell, because without you, the Clippers also do not win this game. He was fantastic. 9 of 13, 6 of 8 from beyond the arc for 24 points. All right, let's get into the bucket list as we normally do here in the second segment. I've missed it the last couple and had to throw it into the third. So let's do the bucket list now. In at number 5, as we're talking about Norm Powell, he hit a 3 at the 4:35 mark of the first quarter. That made it 23-10. So they're still down a lot, 13 points there. But it stopped a 1-for-7 run for the Clippers where they just couldn't hit anything. And then about 40, 50 seconds later at the 3:53 mark, another 3. So he is obviously a streaky shooter as well, and the Clippers needed him today in a big way. So back-to-back 3s in the first got them to within 10. Then at the end of the first quarter, Norman Powell with a buzzer beater, hand in his face, goes in to give the Clippers a 12-point deficit at the end. And more importantly than anything, momentum that they built on. They get into the second quarter. They go on an 8-0 run off of a couple of turnovers, which was really nice. And they built that 8-0 run into a 16-0 run. And Norm Powell was not only shooting the threes, he was running the break, and that was nice to see as well. The number 3 shot on the bucket list today, a Paul George 3 coming off of a turnover, which was part of that 16-0 run. I think it capped it, to be specific. It was at the 8:58 mark of the second, and it gave the Clippers a 31-30 lead. In at number 2, a Harden to Kawhi Leonard alley-oop, and the pass from Harden came about 5 feet behind the 3-point line. So it was a sweet, sharp fastball kind of a pass that got right to Kawhi, and he threw it down at the 2:51 mark, which tied the game for the Clippers. The number 1 shot of the night, because the game winner was lackluster as it was a free throw, was Norman Powell. Another buzzer beater right at the end of the third, hand in his face, banking it in because the bank was open, 68-67. Timberwolves still led, but they really needed that 3 right there to make it a 1-point deficit heading into the fourth quarter. And the number 1 basket, which would be the game winner, the dagger, was a Kawhi Leonard free throw, which gave them a 3-point lead. So that second free throw was very, very crucial, because the Timberwolves did score right there at the very end in the final 13 seconds, but that would be it for them, because that was a 2-point bucket. They didn't even attempt the 3, which I don't quite understand. You got 13 seconds on the clock, you got the ball, and you're going to go for a 2. Unless it's a quick 2 where there's a shot of stealing the ball, getting it back, and then scoring again. What's the point of that? I don't know. The Timberwolves were favored by 2.5 in this one. So the spread was not an issue at all. So kind of foolish to me. At least take the 3 or something. I don't get that, but that's what they did. They got the dunk and they lost by 1. So Kawhi Leonard, clutch free throws there to give the Clippers a 3-point lead, which they held on to and get the win, and are now 39-20, 18-12 on the road. Timberwolves 42-19 and 22-8 at home coming into this game. Speaking of their record, the Timberwolves have been faltering a little bit. They were 8-6 in their last 14 home games, so definitely not dominating there at the Target Center, and now 8-7 on their home floor. But one of the things that was over their last 14, of course, one of the things that was kind of crucial that you have to feel good about, they always talk to Brian Shaw coming out of the locker room after halftime, and today it was on Channel 5, so it was Pingalore, who is interesting and challenging to deal with and listen to at times, because he's always just trying to be funny. I'm like, dude, just stop trying to be funny. This is not about you. If you want to do comedy, go find a comedy club. But yeah, coming out of the locker room, he says, yeah, I found Brian Shaw, and I said, give me something. And, as opposed to, hey, Brian, what did you guys talk about? Or something normal, like a reporter would ask. You don't need to make it into this whole big thing. So he's annoying, to say the least. But anyway, he got something from Brian Shaw, which is typical. He always gives something, and it's always very appropriate, because one of the things you can give credit to the Clippers for is making adjustments at halftime. Doesn't always work, but they're definitely in there working on things. And today, coming out of the break, it was like, we need to be more physical. And I thought in that third quarter, they were fantastic on defense. It was physical. It was closing out, crashing the guy with the ball. And more importantly than anything, it had energy, and they were not jumping and falling for fakes more than once. Anthony Edwards, who had a very, very good game, as he is known to do, finishing with 27, leading the Timberwolves. He would do that head fake, the pump fake thing, and Karl Anthony Towns was doing it. A lot of times the Clippers are just a little lazy on defense when the pump fake comes, and they fall for it. They get off their feet. The guy will penetrate, either kick or find an easy basket. And today they were not falling for it. There was multiple times, Norm Powell, Kawhi Leonard, Daniel Tice, all of these guys in up on the ball, hands in the face of the offender. And it made life really tough on the Timberwolves. It almost felt like something the Timberwolves would do. Like there's an extra guy on the floor. I felt that way when we played Oklahoma City a few days back. I was like, are there 6 guys on this Thunder team? Because the Clippers cannot get an open look. And that's what it had to feel like today, at least very specifically in the third quarter for the T-Wolves, because the Clippers were closing out so nicely, hand in the face, not falling for the head fake, keeping their feet on the ground, sliding with the guy who had the ball, rolling around picks, everything that you would like to see a defender do. So the good news of that is, I know now that they can do it. They're capable of doing it. So when they don't do it, I'm just going to be even more upset. And I'm going to say, stop being so lazy, because we know you're capable of it. So this one obviously had some more importance on it. And it felt like the Clippers ratcheted up their entire game from an intensity standpoint. Like, this one could very well be a playoff series. We need to play it tighter and tougher, and that's exactly what they did. So you have to feel really, really good about a very ugly 89-88 win. We'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk about what went wrong with James Harden today. Where did James Harden go? Did they put out an APB for him? Because he was MIA. All right, today's show also brought to you by Prize Picks. I think I have an idea of what happened to James Harden. I threw him into my Prize Picks, and he got my black cloud. He got my jinx. I am a University of Kentucky Wildcats fan because my dad is from a neighboring town to Lexington, Kentucky, called Winchester, Kentucky. So I've grown up as a Kentucky Wildcats fan, and I always joke that I don't start watching Kentucky basketball until March. Well, March was a couple of days ago, so I watched a good portion of their game against Arkansas yesterday. And as soon as I turned on the TV, they started to fall apart and play like crap. But fortunately, they found their game in the last 8 to 10 minutes of the second half, and they ended up winning. So I did not jinx the Kentucky Wildcats, but apparently I jinxed James Harden because I had him in my prize picks double selection with Anthony Edwards assists and rebounds, which it was an easy win. It was like 8.5. So he had that number fairly comfortably, I believe. But James Harden's number was like 16 or 18 points, and he had 4. And he made a grand total of 0 shots. So Anthony Edwards had 5 rebounds and 2 assists. So I would have lost either way. I lost both of them, but at least Edwards was close. James Harden, not close at all. Sorry, guys. That jinx was on me. Prize Picks is the largest fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more or less on 2 to 6 players and their stat projection for the day and watch the winnings roll in up to 25 times your money. I'll also say that making your initial deposit was super painless and hassle-free. I also received $100 bonus, 100% bonus up to $100. It's a lot of fun. It makes any game more interesting unless you're jinxing the players you pick and they start playing terribly. So check them out. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. So, yeah, I felt partially responsible for James Harden's abysmal performance today. They didn't have Kawhi Leonard available. They didn't have Paul George available. Probably would have had those guys mixed in as well. But Paul George ultimately would have been a loser because there's no way they give him a stat projection of a 15. It usually gets 18, 20, closer to his average, which is 22. Kawhi Leonard's been so red hot, you'd be dumb not to pick him. And I think that's why they didn't throw him in there, because he's been over so many or above so many times. 32 points today, 7 of 8 from the line, 1-3. That's all. Felt like more. And 12 of 26 from the line. But James Harden, I don't know what was going on there. I mean, they weren't even close. But here's the good news, right? This is what you love about a guy like James Harden. 10 assists. He didn't hang his head. He didn't get down in the dumps. He didn't, come out with Mr. Pouty face or anything like that and stop playing. 5 rebounds, 10 assists. His plus minus was -10 because he only had 4 points. But when you're shooting that poorly, I've never seen James Harden go 0 for 10. I mean, maybe he's missed 10 shots, but then made a few. But, like he'll be 2 of 13 or something, but not 0 of 10. Like something's got to fall. He's too good a shooter. Like, what was that? What was that? I can't even believe it. I mean, maybe you give some of the credit to the Timberwolves defense. I don't know. I just blown away. And some of the shots early were forced because the Clippers in general in the first quarter were forcing shots when they were down, 23-7 or whatever. But all in all, he had plenty of decent looks. He penetrated as he does. So this is kind of what happens for James Harden a lot. Obviously, he's a long ball shooter. If he shoots up a couple of threes and they don't fall, then he starts penetrating. So he adjusts, he makes adjustments, which is nice to see. Couldn't make a layup. He would penetrate down there, amongst the trees. And he's usually good about finding an opening and, scooping a left-handed bank shot layup in. Couldn't do that either. Kept hitting the rim and falling short, rolling off the front. He did have a couple of terrible breaks where the ball was halfway down, like banging around, and then comes out. So it was frustrating. So I'm assuming that he felt the same way, and coming out tomorrow night against the Bucks, or it's tomorrow afternoon, I'm sure he'll feel much better about things and want to start filling it up right away. So look for James Harden to have a fast start tomorrow in Milwaukee at Pfizer as they take on the Bucks. Another tough challenge as they have now a total of, I think, 15 games remaining in the month of March. And today and tomorrow, their first back-to-back of 4 in the month of March. So it's going to be tough, but I feel like they're up for the challenge. As we look across the numbers, top to bottom again, Paul George, 5 of 16 in 34 minutes, had 3 threes, 3 of 11, though. Some of them were clutch in the fourth quarter. He had 15 points. Kawhi Leonard, 38 minutes, 12 of 26, 1-3, 32 points, 5 rebounds, 2 steals, and 1 assist. Zubac was terrible today. I don't know what was wrong with him. He didn't make anything. He was 1 of 2. No free throw attempts. He had just the 2 points. James Harden, we talked about it. Terrence Mann, as clutch as he needed to be in 19 minutes, 2 of 3, 6 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 assist. So used his time very efficiently. Daniel Tice, 2 of 7, 0 for 4 from beyond the arc, as we talked about. He had those 4 points. Bones Highland had a couple of good looks. He had much better energy today than he did a couple of days ago. Played 14 minutes, but didn't make anything, so he was scoreless. Amir Coffey, 1 of 5 for 2 points. And Norman Powell, huge, 27 minutes, 9 of 13, 6 of 8. But more importantly, those were clutch baskets that they needed. He finished with 24 points. At the end of the third, the Clippers were shooting just 35%, but Minnesota wasn't much better, shooting 39%. There was a stat that was thrown out about Clippers in clutch games. Now, clutch games are to be considered a 5-point game in the final 5 minutes, which this one was. The Clippers are among the best in the league since that December 1st date that we talk about a lot. They are now 15-4 in games where they are within 5 points in the final 5 minutes. So Harden kept playing, kept making assists. A big part of the reason the Clippers were able to pull this out, in spite of not being able to score a basket at all, he kept shooting. And Kawhi Leonard played the get on my back, lean on me game, which leads me to the superlatives for the night. First, we have the most likely to say my name, because there were a couple of times where Norm Powell was standing there wide open, no defenders anywhere near him, and he gets a pass and buries the 3. One of them late in the game caused the T-Wolves to call a timeout, because they were like, why are we not, the coach saw that and said, why are we not guarding Norm Powell? So the most likely to say my name is Norm Powell. He's fantastic. The most likely to say, the most likely to apologize to his team, without a doubt, James Harden. But at the same time, as I mentioned, 10 assists. So he did something. His stat sheet was not completely empty, but his shooting performance was something you would need to apologize for. And lastly, the get on my back performance of the night, Kawhi Leonard. In 38 minutes, he had 32 points. Some very, very clutch baskets for him. And all in all, a nice win where I feel like the Clippers build their confidence on defense more than anything, taking a page out of the Timberwolves book, closing out and really making life difficult for them in the second half. And that has to feel really good for them. It should go noticed that this Anthony Edwards guy is fantastic. In 37 minutes, 9 of 20 for 27 points, 3 threes, and perfect from the line, 5 rebounds, 3 steals, 2 assists. So he is definitely a lot to deal with. Karl Anthony Towns was 5 for 5 to start, but then struggled, going 0 for 10 in the fourth, finishing with just 18. And Rudy Gobert played great defense, pulled down 16 boards, only finished with 12 points. So the Clippers did a very, very nice job slowing him down, and credit to all of the people that were on Karl Anthony Towns, because they switched it around a lot. But Norm Powell was on him for a little bit. Kawhi Leonard, obviously, I believe Daniel Tice switched off a few times, but they all did a really, really, really nice job of guarding him. And Norm Powell also did a nice job on Edwards. There was one possession where Edwards was doing everything in his power to get Norm to fall for a fake, and Norm just wasn't going for it. And they called a foul on Norm ultimately, but I was like, come on. That's a home crowd call right there, because Norm did his job. He played fantastic defense and was just sticking to him like glue, and just a ticky-tack foul right at the very end to give Edwards the free throws. But in the end, it didn't matter. Clippers pull it out 89-88. Again, now 39-20 on the season, 18-12 on the road. Timberwolves are 42-19 overall. 22-8 at home, but the number that's probably more apparently bad, one that you would circle if you're a T-Wolves opponent at Target Center, over their last 15, they're now 8-7. So I believe the final meeting between the Clippers and the T-Wolves will be in LA, so it won't matter much, but they are tough in the West, and it'd be nice for them to fall back a little bit. Again, no off day, right back at it tomorrow in Milwaukee at Fiserv to take on the Bucks. It starts about 5 o'clock. We will see you after. Enjoy the rest of your weekend until tomorrow. Have a good night. I am Pete Fox, and thank you for joining me here on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel and the Locked On Clippers podcast feed. Have a good, is it Saturday or is it Sunday? Oh, it's Sunday. Have a good Sunday night. We'll talk to you tomorrow.